Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 14 of SevTech Ages. Something very recently that I accomplished was that I acquired level 28 in these Astral Sorcery perks, which actually is the last skill point I think that is meaningfully useful for me. So that allows me to pick up this perk, which with 28 perks applied means that our perk effect modifier will go up a lot. Let's take a look at what we have right now. We have 10 armor, 2 toughness, 6 attack speed. I'm not quite sure what that means. 12 dodge chance, blah, 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 blah. And 6.4 tiles of reach. So if we grab this perk, these numbers should all go up. We got over a tile of reach. Our armor went up a lot. Our dodge chance went up significantly. All said, I think that perk has a significant effect. So if you want, take a look at, you can like grab a screenshot of this, or maybe I'll include a screenshot of it in the description. This is my full 28 point Astral Sorcery build. You get 2 more points. I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to put them yet. Maybe I'll go for something like Unwavering, some armor and dodge chance, or elemental resistances and maximum life so I don't die to lava. I don't know yet. There's a lot of ways you can spend the last 2 points that don't really make a big difference because you can't get to any other like high impact perks. You can only pick up one of these, medium impact ones. Like if I had 3 points, I would definitely go pick up or I guess it's more than 3 at this point. Go pick up Phoenix Blessing, but I can't. Oh well. So anyways, in age 4 now, one of the first things I want to do is set up our Celestial Gateway system. This is Astral Sorcery's teleportation system, and it'll let us teleport to any other Celestial Gateways that we have. But first, I want to name these in an anvil, because if they're named in an anvil, they'll show up with that name when you go to them. So this one we'll call... that will be our home base, and this one I'll call Desert. And when I get to a desert, I'll show you why I want to find a desert. So let's put it over here. Is that a... wow, this is actually... oh no, never mind. These are normal rocks, I just wasn't clicking it. Basically, any rocks at this point that don't break when you click them, am I just missing the rock? There we go. Any rocks that don't break when you click them at this point are age 5 ores. So it's like diamond or emerald, and they're actually pretty valuable. But let's build this. This is a very simple multi-block, so I'll just build it on camera real quickly. Of course, now that I say it's really simple, I don't remember what it looks like. And having just one of these doesn't really do much, so I guess the one I'm building now won't really do anything. But it'll look cool. I mean, that counts for something, right? Last blocks. So when it's done, it'll when you step into it, when you step into it, you see all these stars, and your like vision gets changed a bit. So what would happen is if you had a second portal, you could choose which one to teleport to. So how about let me go explore a bit, find a desert. The way this world is generated, deserts tend to generate far to the south. So we probably have to go a couple thousand blocks, but hey, we can fly, so that's no big deal. And I just want to make sure I have all the materials for a second one of these on me. So let me go find a desert and build another one of these gateways there, and I'll show you how this works. As we start traveling, one other thing I want to make note of is that age 4 automatically unlock journey map that you see in the upper right corner. With that, we also get automated coordinates, which are displayed right under the map, and a biome readout, which is right under the coordinates. So we no longer have to guess what biome we're in or use the moss or not know coordinates. Pretty cool. So anyways, I'm flying southwest because that is the direction I expect the desert to be in. And I still expect it to be a couple thousand blocks off, so I'll see you when I'm there. And here's our desert. If we look at our coordinates, we actually didn't go quite as far as I expected we would, maybe like 2,000 blocks. But let's build another teleportation thingy here. And actually, one of the reasons I wanted to come here apparently is no longer valid. In the earlier version of the map, these regular rocks did not generate in deserts, which meant that if you went to a desert, every single like you wouldn't get normal rocks on the surface, you would only get ore samples, which made it really easy to just fly over the top and find ore samples. But even with rocks, you know, scattered in, I find it's pretty easy to tell the difference between ore samples and rocks while flying over. So I think we can still use this desert for mining. Basically, it's a lot easier to spot ores against the desert backdrop, the, you know, bright yellow-white color, than it is against like forest backdrops or whatever, because there's like no trees in the way or anything. So yeah, it's really easy to mine in deserts. So I always forget which block goes on top and which one goes on bottom. So let's mark this just in case we lose it for whatever reason. And then place our teleporter down. So when we stand in here and look around, we see a yellow star there. That's each teleporter that we place will show up as a yellow star, and it'll be in the approximate direction of the actual teleporter. So these do work interdimensionally, and if you place one in another dimension, it'll be up in the sky somewhere. So you see there's home base. If we just sneak, I thought it was sneak. Let me figure out how to do this. Is it empty hand right click? Let's just read the book. Focus on the desired destination while crouching will allow you to teleport. Hello? Game? Please? Let me read that again. Focusing on the desired destination alignment while crouching will result in the gateway carrying them away as starlight to the target. Once traveling that pathway, remnant images will remain for future observations. Do I need to chunk load the other portal maybe? Let me do some testing. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it didn't work, but I just teleported across 2,300 blocks. So we can do it again the other way. Do I have to stand on the portal? I'm not quite sure. It seems to be a little picky on cursor placement. But with that, we can now teleport between our desert, which is where we'll do our mining, and our base, which is where we will do our basing. So, pretty cool, right? Let me, I've crafted the tier 5 ore prospector. Sorry, the tier 4 ore prospector, which for some reason it thinks I've dug up a quartz vein already. I'm not sure why. But I'm going to go look for a quartz vein, a silicon vein, and I guess that's it for overworld veins. And we'll have to go to the nether and pick up some ardite and cobalt later. My strategy for actually searching the desert for ores involves just flying across it, and I'll throw a torch into the middle of every chunk that I've checked so that it's just my marker for, hey, I've been here already. And what I'm looking for is if it has a ore in it, so let's go until we find a chunk that does have ore in it. Here's one. So this has gold ore. I don't necessarily want gold right now, so if you shift right click a sample with anything in your hand, whoops, I guess with a thing that doesn't have a shift right click use, it actually adds a waypoint to your journey map. So you see here, I've already done it for a cassiterite sample and now a gold sample, and then eventually I'll just turn the waypoints off. But later, if I realize, hey, I need some gold, I can just look for any gold samples I've marked, and then I'm just scanning back and forth across this desert looking for samples. So likewise, here is another gold sample. So I'll go and shift right click it to mark it. and just move on. So, yep, if I find Certus or something else, of the new ores, I'll actually just dig it out. But alright, time to mine. Our first silicon vein. It seems to benefit from looting, so let's see how much we can get from a single vein. I don't think they're terribly big veins, so I'd rather just mine them individually with our looting pickaxe than vein mine it with our regular looting 3 hammer. But it looks like we'll be getting a lot, because we're getting like 6 to 8 per ore. And this silicon, I think, is a key part of applied energistics. Among other stuff, I expect. Let's see. So I guess it's, just for the applied energistics circuits. Well, but there's, 3.5 stacks from a single vein. Not half bad. And here's our first assorted quartz vein. Seems to give charged Certus, nether quartz, regular Certus, and black quartz. So again, since it seems to be fortune affected, let's mine it with this. This is a much easier way of getting black quartz than getting it from the deep dark, right? But for the other stuff, it's our only way of getting Certus. So, and I'm sure we'll use plenty of Certus while doing applied energistics. Here's the total yield from that Certus, or that quartz vein. It wasn't quite as much Certus as I had hoped for. Only 2 stacks of regular Certus and a little under half a stack of charged. But oh well. I guess I'll mine until my inventory is full, and then we'll probably head back to our base. When it's nighttime, the way that I light up the chunks with torches becomes pretty, if you look in the map, it's pretty evident what areas I've searched and what areas I haven't. I really like the way it looks. It's like a nice marker of where you've been and where you haven't been. So anyways, my inventory is basically full, my backpack is full, so time to head on home. And we'll start processing some of this stuff and look at what we should tackle next, which I think we'll work our way towards applied energistics storage. So let's see what it'll take to get into applied energistics. We need an inscriber and the inscriber presses, which I believe are made with pneumatic craft, but let me confirm that. So the inscriber itself is nothing special. That's actually just the vanilla recipe. We don't have the advanced inscriber, unfortunately, but oh well. What are some of these things? Oh, I think these are refined storage components. Anyways, presses. So yeah, inscriber presses, you can duplicate them in the inscriber like normal, but making them requires going to the end, I guess. It requires various components from the end and some pneumatic craft machines. So let's get into pneumatic craft next. Let me empty out my inventory and we'll work from there. The fundamental building material of pneumatic craft is compressed iron. So if we look here, compressed iron ingot, there's a couple ways to make it. The only truly lossless way to make it is by turning iron ingots into compressed iron ingots in a pressure chamber. But we can't make a pressure chamber until we already have compressed iron. So let's look at our other ways. That's just block decompression. So we can either use a metal press to turn 1 block or 9 ingots into 4, which you lose 5, so you lose like over 50%. Or you can use explosion crafting, and you lose about 20%. And explosion crafting sounds way more awesome than metal press, right? So let's do that. Let's find somewhere where we won't mind setting off an explosion. How about just underground here? There's holes in the ground already, right? So the way you do it is, first of all, you need an explosion. How can I set that off? And then you need to put your iron near the explosion. Now normally, item entities get destroyed by TNT when it goes off, but this doesn't quite work that way. It destroys some of it, but the rest of it gets transformed into compressed iron. And if you saw, we started with 4 stacks and now we have 3 1/4 stacks. That's a 20% loss that was mentioned. So it's, I mean, you lose some, but it's fine. Now, that should also have done our advancement for compressed iron. So our goal here is to make the assembly line, which is one of the later parts of pneumatic craft. First thing we have to do is build a pressure chamber. A pressure chamber is the main, or at least one of the major crafting mechanics in pneumatic craft. So let's look at what that entails. So a pressure chamber is composed of a number of walls, and I think you need a valve and two interfaces. So let's build these out. Looks like it's just a lot of compressed iron and some glass. We also need pressure tubes to transport compressed air and a compressor, which will, it'll compress the air. So let me build all these components and we'll set up a very basic pressure chamber system. The simplest pressure chamber we can make is just composed of, it's a 3x3 multi-block. It is, let's see, the top and bottom layers I believe have to be solid chamber walls. And then I'm thinking let's put two pieces of glass just so we can see what's going on inside. Or I guess we'll only have room for one piece of glass, and I'll show you why in a second. So one piece of glass to look in, two interfaces for item input and output. So we want in the left, out the right, and can I rotate this? Maybe not. If I place it this way, that's sideways. I could probably rotate it if I had a wrench, but I haven't made a wrench yet. So anyways, let's do it like this. In, there we go. And then we need to let air into the system from somewhere, so we need a valve. And when it forms, it becomes a multi-block. Now if we look in the UI for it, there's this gauge, and this shows how much air pressure we have in it right now. So right now there's zero air pressure in it. That means that well, we can't really do anything with zero air pressure. But if as long as it stays in this green zone, that is like the safe zone. And if it ever gets to the red, it risks exploding. So you have to be careful when setting up pneumatic craft to make sure your systems don't generate too much air pressure. Generally above 5 atmospheres of pressure is considered the danger zone. So air pressure is generated with a compressor. I'm going to set it a little ways off here just so that I have some room to run some redstone, because that'll be our control logic. But for now, we're not going to have any control logic. We just plug it in. So the basic air compressor takes burnable fuels and generates air out of it. And if we look here, the current pressure is 0.1 bar. I think that's a unit of pressure, barometric pressure, I don't know. Anyways, it's compressing air. There's a rate, there are speed upgrades. Let's see what that takes. The pneumatic craft speed upgrades. These are very potent. So they take sugar, lapis, and lubricant. And lubricant has to come from processing down this diesel. So we'll make that soon. But now that we have this, let's take a look at how we can use our pressure chamber to do crafting. What is the first thing it wants us to craft in a pressure chamber? I guess it doesn't exactly say. So one of the first things I want to do is set up our air compressor so it automatically turns off when we reach 5 atmospheres, or 5 whatever unit of pressure it is. To do so, we need to, let's see, I believe there's a thing called a pressure gauge. This one. So if we build one of these and attach it to the tube, it'll emit a redstone signal proportional to how full or how high pressure the tube is. So let's go craft one. Just take some gold. And everything else we should have. and some redstone. So if we take this and attach it to our tube somewhere, let's put it right here. You can see how it says emitting redstone 2. It's emitting a redstone signal of 2 because the pressure in here is 1.1 bars. So I think that says that the redstone signal it emits is 2 times the current pressure. So 2 times 1.2 is 2.4, which I guess gets rounded to 2. So what we can do then is take that redstone signal and loop it around, and we can count on the fact that it decays by 1 per point. So say we wanted to turn off when the pressure reaches, let's use 4.5 for safety. So 4.5 times 2 is 9. So we want the redstone signal to a 9 will turn this off. So it'll be 9, 8. Let's actually extend it a little bit then. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it'll turn off. So now this will shut off before it explodes, which is a good safety feature. We can simplify this redstone logic a little bit as well if we want to use like comparators and stuff. This is just a most basic way to do it, relying on raw decay of redstone. So moving on, let me figure out what our next step is. Before we can do much more in pneumatic craft, like make all these programs, we have to make an Andromedon tablet. This is think of it as like a trading system where we can trade resources, namely stabilized metal, for various like the blueprints which we need. We can also trade various fluids for the stabilized metal instead of making it. It does have a crafting recipe, but I think it's much easier just to sell, kerosene or lubricant or something. So to make all these, well, first of all, to make the Andromedon tablet, we need plastic. And to make all these fluids, we need to process our diesel oil down further. So that's going to involve another one of these towers, distillation towers. So let's build another one of those. We'll set it up here, and we're already processing all of our kerosene down into plastic, but let's process our diesel down into its components, which will allow us to make the other type of plastic, the pneumatic craft plastic, sorry. And then we'll go from there to work our way towards applied logistics. While I'm crafting the components for our other distillation tower, I noticed I forgot to set this to only enable on low signal, so that it was just ignoring the redstone signal that it was getting. And now it's actually above 5 bar, which means we are in the danger zone of explosions. So I'm just going to hang around here. Even now with the redstone signal applied, it won't stop until it finishes burning the piece of fuel that it started using. So I'm going to keep an eye on it and see if it explodes, just so I can show you what the explosion looks like. You see how we're at 5.1? I could vent some air for safety, but where's the fun in that, right? So I think these systems are inherently just a tiny bit leaky, which means that, how can I check there. I think over time it'll vent the pressure to the point where it's below 5, but maybe it's not inherently leaky. We're losing literally no air. In that case, I'm just going to leave it here. The right thing to do is to break a pipe and vent some air, but I want to see what happens when it explodes. Sometimes the explosions are pretty big and nasty, so it might be pretty fun. Here is our second distillation tower. I haven't plugged it in yet. This pipe doesn't belong here, does it? Oh, it does. What? Okay. Let me reform that multi-block. So anyways, now that we're in age 4, we have access to Immersive Engineering's pumps, which means we can now use it to extract from fluid containers. So let's do one of these things to pump oil or to pump diesel into the distillery. I was under the impression that it did not need power. Let's read the book on that. I thought it said it only needs power. Oh, it needs a redstone signal, right? So if it's extracting from a fluid tank, it does not need RF power, it just needs a redstone signal. So let's supply it with a lever. Whereas if it's extracting fluid from like in-world, like it can pick up water in-world, in that case it does need a little bit of power. So here's a lever. We can also use a pump then to replace our current water producer, right? We're producing water with the astral sorcery setup here, but this consumes a little bit of starlight over time, whereas if we were to do it with a pump, it won't consume any, like it'll just consume a little bit of RF. So where did I set this again? I'm a little loopy today. We'll turn it on. This, even without power, should start pumping diesel into here. Next, we have to plug in this machine. I can connect to that one. Let me get some wires. Pretty soon, we'll have to upgrade our energy production too, because right now we're only producing like 500 RF a tick, which is not going to be enough. Good news is we can produce energy from lava quite easily, and we can produce lava from netherrack, which we could just go and, vein mine a large chunk of it from time to time. At least that's my plan for now. So this is distilling diesel into gasoline and kerosene, and I think lubricant? Yeah, there we go, lubricant. So again, it's using more power than we have available. That's fine. Once it clears the backlog, it'll slow down because I'm not running our pump jack right now. And I think is this byproduct also bitumen, so I'll continue to just trash that. So I'll set up another system like this one that'll filter the 3 fluids apart. We'll store them in tanks. We also have access to slightly better fluid tanks now, I believe. We have these inductive logistics tanks, and it's quite easy to make the 512 bucket tank. It's 8 times 4, so 32 glass and some iron, and 8 gold plates make a 512 bucket tank, which is a pretty good deal. And later we can even go above that, once we go to the end and get some purpur and biotite, we can get 4 kilobucket tanks, and then with nether star, eventually we can get some really large tanks. So 32 kilobucket tanks at the cost of a little platinum. Above that, it starts getting a little expensive. These take nether stars, and then as we go above that, it's like, okay, let's forget about it for now. So anyways, I'm going to filter these off into their own tanks, and perhaps I'll replace all of our buffer tanks with that 512 bucket tank buffer tank. Now that we're splitting our gasoline into its component fuels, let's actually take a small detour to now that we're splitting our diesel into its components, let's take a moment to use this gasoline to generate power, because I don't think there's anything else you do with gasoline. So yeah, all it's used for is producing energy at 1200 forge energy or RF per millibucket. And we can either use the simple fluid combustion generator, or I believe we can get slightly more energy out of it if we use advanced generators, which is a pretty fancy multi-block generator system where you arbitrarily define the capabilities of the generator based on what components are in it. So I think we want a gas turbine. Let's just make sure it doesn't use anything too crazy. Yeah, everything here looks doable. We'll also need a good number of manual rotors, though. These are what actually produce the power. So to make these, we need, obviously, a fair amount of manulin. So I think I'm going to go make a trip to the nether and harvest up a good bit of cobalt and ardite, because right now our only way of making manulin is to alloy them together. So I hope it's not too rare in the nether, but I guess let's go find out. Before we go mining for cobalt, it's probably a good idea to upgrade our hammer to be cobalt mining level so that we can actually, mine it. So I already made a some more obsidian components. I think this will, let's see, I think it mines slightly faster. Its durability is exceptionally low, but it's unbreakable, so durability is a moot stat anyways. So now that we can mine obsidian, or cobalt, sorry, let's go get some. So I've spent maybe 5 minutes here in the nether, and I've come up with not very much cobalt and ardite. In fact, each rotor looks like it takes 5 to make 4, so 11 pieces of manulin, or basically I made less than 2 rotors, about a hair over 1 manulin rotor in 5 minutes. And I'm gonna need, I don't know, maybe like almost 50 of these. So I am going to go absolutely insane trying to do this by hand. So let's look for another solution. Whatever's poking me, if it would stop. Anyways, I looked at the fluids that are available from Astral Sorcery. Remember we did the Necromantic Prime to dig up water? Well, a slightly less ridiculous fluid to dig up include cobalt and ardite. So how about let's see if we can find some fluid cobalt or ardite in the world. And if we can, we'll use the Necromantic Prime to dig that up instead of, in fluid form, and then we can alloy it or whatever later. So if we just use our Icosic resonator, right, we walk around, we can see some of these pillars, and like that one's lava. But there's one here that's yellow. I assume that one's gold. What I'm looking for is one that for cobalt or ardite. Unfortunately, it's not very clear what it is. Like, I expect cobalt to be bluish, but so is water. And like that red doesn't necessarily, right? That's not the same red as lava. So I'm curious what it actually is. But to test it, I think I have to actually move this entire multi-block and build it and supply it with some starlight to test it out. But what can you do? Let's see if I can find a veins of cobalt and ardite to make this manulin process a little bit easier. Well, my first one was wrong. I saw this red-looking fluid, reddish-orange, and I was wondering, hey, is it what I wanted? And turns out, well, it's molten iron, so I don't think I want to bother digging up iron. I mean, I'll leave it here for now until I find somewhere else to put it. I really wish there was a way to get like a text readout of the fluid from the Icosic resonator. Let me see if I can show you what these little things look like. And I don't know, maybe I guess this is like too red to be ardite. Here, so no, that's not it. I mean, they're of this color, the little sprouts. So, bleh, I don't know. I guess I have to look for something that is more orange or has to be more blue than water. I don't know. Time to try again. Whatever. I spent a couple nights looking around. I haven't found anything that I am reasonably confident would be cobalt or ardite. They are, as per the configs, quite rare. Like, for every lava chunk, or for every 100 lava chunks, there is one cobalt chunk or one ardite chunk. So, I don't know, it's probably too rare, and I'll have to build that thing too many times to be worth it. I looked at some other options and I couldn't find anything that seemed convincingly easy. So I guess the way we're going to get cobalt and ardite is to mine the nether. Womp womp. Well, it took a little while, but I eventually was able to gather up a comfortable amount of cobalt and ardite. This won't quite make the 50-ish manulin turbines I wanted, but it'll make a comfortable number. So let's use this. I'll mix it into into manulin, cast it into ingots, and then we can produce a bit more power so we can run our oil processing at 100% uptime. So this is almost assuredly overkill, but here are the components for the generator I want to make. You need one controller, at least one flux generator. This is just the output valve basically. At least one fluid intake, up to 10 fuel tanks. I just made 10 because they're really cheap. Optionally, a sensor module and redstone control module, or multiple of these. This is for the control logic. optionally a fuel air mixer and gas compressor. They just increase fuel efficiency. At least one power capacitor up to 10, and at least one turbine up to 50. So let's build it. The shape is actually completely arbitrary. So you can place them in whatever shape you want and just, put your ports where you want them to be for easy access. So I'm thinking, since we're going to be burning the gasoline, let's put the fluid intake there. Let's put the redstone logic over here. And then anything else can just literally fill in the multi-block. So, whoops. Sometimes I forget how fast my pickaxe is. And it doesn't even have to be like square in shape. It can be literally any shape. Well, maybe not literally any shape. There might be limits, but any shape within reason at least. If you make it 1 by 30, it may or may not work. I haven't tried. I had one too many blocks, whatever. So this is formed. When you look at the UI, there's a little bit going on here. So first of all, let me fix this hole I accidentally dug. So you have a fluid buffer, a energy buffer. That's for item output, I believe, and some statistics. So 24 turbines at peak production, it produces 12k RF a tick. It's not telling me actual fuel consumption. I wonder if I have to actually start the turbine for that. So let's connect the fluid to it. That's awkward. I have to hit this face to make it input. I think this thing... I really hope this keeps its inventory when I pick it up. I read somewhere it does. Good. That would have been really awkward if it didn't. So set this to input. Put our tank back. And then I need one piece of fluid pipe, like so. And this should start when I apply a redstone signal. Let's get a torch, or a lever. So when I apply a redstone signal to that to start pumping, this is a fluid intake, right? Yes. Did I set this side to output? Hear me, you idiot. Output side. There we go. So looks like it's burning fuel faster than I can pump it in. Oops, I may have made more turbines than I needed. I didn't expect this to use so much fuel. Anyways, it's using 127 millibuckets or 128 millibuckets a tick of fuel, which I assume is the pump's limit. And it's producing 4,800 RF a tick. So we can also pump kerosene into there. Let's see, what other uses are there for kerosene though? Yeah, kerosene can be combined with oxygen to make rocket fuel, which can be burned, but let's leave kerosene as it is for now. So anyways, as this burns the gasoline, it produces RF. Can we figure out the fuel efficiency? Let's see. So, oh, not anymore, we can't. I'll see if I can figure that out next time I have some fuel in here. Anyways, let's configure the redstone though. So we want the sensor module to be... Wait, so the sensor module is an output. We want it to output if the power capacitor is, let's say, over 75% full. I want a signal on. How do I change that? Or is it outputting now? It is not. Let me say I'm going to play with this to figure out how to make this work. Ah, I figured it out. This isn't actually a setting. This is just telling you the current state. So because the power capacitor is not empty, the current state is on. But if I set it to over, let's say 95%, if it's over 95% full, because it's not, it's off right now. So what I want to do is connect it back around to the control module. And if the redstone signal turns on, I want this to disable, disable on signal fuel use, which effectively turns the machine off. And I think that's the only thing you can do. So when the power capacitor internal to this thing reaches 95%, which is what, like 225 million, it'll turn off. Until then, it uses fuel when there is fuel in it. So let me hook this up to our power, and let's see if the power it generates is enough to let us run our production at 100% uptime. Is this in range? It is. Cool. I also moved some stuff around to make it a little bit easier to access things. So that's power out. And actually, I wonder if I power the pump, will it run faster? And let's turn on our pump jack. And this is producing again. Now it looks like its production is limited by the amount of fuel we're pumping into it. I really wonder if, maybe for now, let's burn our kerosene as well. We'll get enough kerosene later to use for rocket fuel. And when that time comes, we can just turn off this pump. So, where's my hammer? Input there, output there. Put our tank back and put some pipes down. So when this thing runs out of gasoline, it'll start burning kerosene. And it actually looks like kerosene is a lot more fuel efficient than whatever this is, gasoline. Okay, now let's calculate the fuel efficiency. So 1200 RF a tick, 6 millibuckets a tick, which means we get 2000 RF per millibucket of kerosene. That's actually about what the fluid combustion generator gets us. With gasoline, it was actually a lot worse, right? With gasoline, is this? Okay, so with gasoline, we were burning 128 a tick for like 4000 RF a tick, which is like 50-ish RF a millibucket. So I guess instead of burning gasoline, oops, I guess the redstone signal is applying to both. Instead of burning gasoline in the gas turbine, maybe we'll have to burn it in a different machine. We can burn gasoline in the simple fluid, or maybe even the upgradable fluid combustion generator. No, it doesn't look like we can upgrade it, but we can burn it in the simple fluid generator and get more power out of it. So let's try that instead. Let's see how well this simple fluid combustion generator works. I've reconfigured our pump now. It's input the bottom, output the side here. So we should be able to just put this here, turn the pump on, and it's filling up with energy. So I don't know how fast it actually burns it. I'll click here. Does it give me an RF a tick? I guess if it's burning or if it's too slow, we can... Nope, we can't make speed modifiers. They're disabled. Alright, well, whatever. This looks like it produces some amount of RF. We'll just hook it up and let it burn the gasoline because nothing else for gasoline to do. We don't have cars to drive around or anything. So... Now, we are definitely overloading our power lines. So if we look at this... this thing produces 12k RF a tick, but our power can only transfer 1k. So there exists no world in which our power can keep up with this. We'll have to upgrade to HV wires. And even then, HV is only, does it say? I think it's 4000 a tick. But for now, I think that's our fastest RF transfer method available. So anyways, I think we got a lot done today. We were now producing over 20 times the power we were at the start of the episode. We'll put this to use for one powering our AE system soon, but I think I have some other big plans for this power. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.